Amazes me. Okay, so we are in the midst of a series about seeking the kingdom of God. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you, and his righteousness, which is the right use of these qualities. And so for the last weeks, we've been talking about that we are being the qualities that we are seeking. So we've talked about I'm a human being, faith, love, freedom, trust and patience in the present moment, abundance, and grace and oneness. And I hope that we've been practicing, because that's how we're going to, it's going to become a more natural thing to us in any circumstance to really show up as these qualities the more that we practice them. And so today we are talking about I am a human being, creativity. In the beginning, God, Genesis. In the beginning, God created and created and created and created and created and created, created. And at the end of that first chapter, and God created man in his image and likeness. And part of what that means is that we are creative beings. And, you know, whether you believe in the creationism story, the story of evolution, the fact is God created, period. and we come forth from that essence. And so we are, and I like to say co-creators with this universal presence, this universal spirit. And the way that we create is through the power of our imagination. Now, imagination is actually the third principle of unity. And the third principle is thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. This is the part where we are asking. So we are using our faith, our imagination, with thoughts held in mind to produce after their kind and thereby create this energy. Now, Charles Fillmore also talked about the 12 powers of man. He has a book called The 12 Powers. And he has linked every power to a disciple as well as to a placement in the body. The disciple that represents imagination is Nathaniel, otherwise known as Bartholomew. Now, in Scripture, Jesus says to Bartholomew, "You shall see greater things than these. Truly, truly, I say to you, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." So it's really about, you're going to see beyond the appearance of what you see now. You're going to see beyond the finite world around you. So it's really opening up the imagination. The placement for this is in what is called the third eye area. Now, this is not just some airy-fairy third eye hocus pocus kind of stuff. Charles Fillmore was very scientific. When you read Charles, you're going to get some really great spiritual stuff, but you're going to get some scientific things that back it up. Charles Fillmore says the imagination has its center directly between the eyes. This is the point of expression for a set of tissues that extend back into the brain and connect with an imaging or picture-making function near the root of the optic nerve. Through this faculty, you can project an image of things that are without or ideas that are within. And I love that. That's why it's connected to the third eye. Now, I know that there are many of us who think, you know, I'm not good at using my imagination. You know, I can't picture things. I'm not good at using my imagination. So I want to share with you that we are imagining all the time. We are using our power of imagination all the time. We use it to think about our past. We use it to think about our future. We use it to think about what the day might hold for us or how somebody else may show up in a particular situation. We imagine what the weather will be like, and I'm sure for most of us we've imagined sun, which we had yesterday. We imagine what a color of paint may look like on a wall or a placement of a piece of furniture may go. And we use our imagination also for negative things like worry. Or pre-painting. I like to call that pre-painting, where we're worrying about something that hasn't happened and we're feeling the pain in the present moment. We're using our imagination. We also use it to post-pain. Have you ever had like a something that was like a close call and you find yourself talking about what could have been? So the idea here is that we're using our imagination all the time. And the idea of today is to get to a place where we are harnessing the power of our imagination to purpose it for the greatest expression of who we came here to be in this life experience. I want to share with you some quotes about imagination. Albert Einstein, anybody know of Albert? Of course we do. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, but imagination encircles the world. And then Marcel Proust, the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. And then let's go 2,000 years ago to Plato. And he said to be careful of the images that we put into our mind. He said that we are not to put images of terror, violence, or fright into our minds, and especially not into our children's minds. Rather, we are to put in pleasant images of beauty, joy, peace, and harmony. And I think this is especially relevant for today because there's so much that is coming at our children with horrible games. And TV, and how important it is to have these fresh little minds filled with things that are positive and uplifting and beautiful, and those kinds of things. I read something at one point, and I don't remember where I read it, but I loved it, and it talks about being spiritually double vision. We've talked about being focused. This is about being spiritually double visioned. And what it says is spiritual double vision is the ability to see the world as it appears, and also to see it as the world through God's eyes. And what was interesting to me about that is that in our humanness, our tendency is to see the world as it appears. And we have to practice and wake up, it's the wake up, O sleeper, and rise, wake up enough to be aware of how we're viewing the world and to rise above what is today, or what has been. And so we seeing the world through God's eyes is that we're not going to look at just the finite. Notice I said just, because we are going to look at that, because it's important to. But we're going to rise, and we're going to open our vision, and we're going to expand our vision. The late Reverend Eric Butterworth, I did not put that on there, from Spiritual Economics, says that seeing is not believing, believing is seeing. You see things not as they are, but as you are. We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are because we have this finite aspect to how we look at the world, how we look at life, how we look at situations in our life, and we close them down. As amazing as our physical eyes are, they truly do see the finite. Now, I love the whole, things just show up always when I need them. And just this morning, I get the Science of Mind magazine, and I looked over, and the whole issue is about imagination. Wow. Imagine that. But I love that it says that our first mental task is to become very clear on the fact that the reality we're in now is not the end of the story. We have an unfortunate tendency, especially if we're in the grip of a negative reality, to shut down our expectations like those security gates that clank down in front of stores. We start thinking that we know what all the possibilities are for our lives, and they aren't good. And it's interesting, to read that and to recognize that in many instances we do that very thing. That again, because we're looking just through the finite eyes, and the programming of that inner world. Our imagination is actually vision beyond appearances. That's what our imagination is. It's vision beyond appearances. It's vision beyond what we're looking at today. Charles Fillmore says that imagination is our ability to give shape and form to unformed mental energy. It's our ability to give shape and form to that. Now, I love that Eric Butterworth says our goal is to see from a consciousness of ever-present substance. And so let's go now to this scripture, because what we're going to recognize is that everything that has been made from that which is invisible. And so Hebrews 11:1 starts out by saying, now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. So right there it's telling us we're not going to see it necessarily with our physical eyes. This is what the ancients were commended for. And it goes on to say, by faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that which was seen was not made out of what was visible. So everything, the idea behind this is we want to really start standing in that awareness that we live and move and have our being in divine substance. And you can call it God, you can call it divine energy, you can call it substance, whatever it is that you call this. But we live and move and have our being in this. And Jesus absolutely knew this. Jesus was all about this kind of thing in the imagination and faith. And he could see beyond the appearance of someone standing in front of him that was sick, and he could see to their greater reality. He could see beyond somebody who was showing up as a negative energy, and he could see beyond to their goodness. And the reason for that was because he knew what he was immersed in. He knew that it was divine substance, godness, that he was immersed in, and he lived from that absolute awareness. What Jesus also represented for us is that, my friends, we live in a world of infinite possibilities, just as Joe sang about this morning. Infinite possibilities. How many of us have seen Alice in Wonderland? I love the quote where Alice says to the queen, one can't believe in impossible things. And the queen says, I dare say you haven't had much practice. Well, when I was your age, I always did it for half an hour every day, while sometimes I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. And I love that because it reminds us to get back to that place of using our imagination. Now, I want to say here, when we're talking about infinite possibilities, I think part of the reason that we don't entertain them is because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And as Maria Nemeth says, we create these kind of walls, these structures around us in our consciousness. And so we know what is in these structures. When we step into imagination and infinite possibilities, these walls begin to come down, and we begin to see things, guess what, that were always there. They were always there. We just couldn't see them because we were so in that structure. So moving into this idea that we are creative beings and using our imagination and opening up to possibilities brings these walls down. Now, I want to share with you about infinite possibilities, because what we do know is every day new things are being created. In fact, when we look at this past century, it's amazing what has been created. Every day somebody is being healed of something that the medical community said could not happen. Every day that's happening multiple times. Every day somebody is accomplishing a goal that years before they never would have imagined that they could accomplish. Doing things that they never would have imagined that they thought was possible for them. And I look at even just in our humanity, how years ago running a mile in this amount of time would have seemed impossible. But today, people are surpassing records over and over and over again. And when we look at the things that have been, just created that would have seemed impossibilities before, who would have imagined that we wouldn't have to have a phone that plugged into the wall? We could carry it around in our pocket with us. Somebody imagined that. Who would have imagined that same phone, if it's a smartphone, you would be able to get on FaceTime and speak to somebody and see them in China or in Thailand or Norway or wherever? Who would have imagined that? Somebody imagined that as a possibility. Who would have imagined, who would have imagined that you could put wheels on luggage? Somebody imagined that, thank God, huh? I mean, sometimes aren't you like, duh? Here we've been lugging luggage for so long, and we could put wheels on it. I'm waiting for the little remote. Yeah. So you think about there's infinite possibilities, and even in your own life, I think if you really sat back and looked at, when you were 18, you probably would have thought the things that you have done in your life, or even doing today, were impossible at that point. And yet here you are today, doing things that at that point you would have thought were impossible. So the idea here, obviously, is that we want to use our imagination to open ourselves up to possibilities. So how do we use our imagination? And I've shared this before, but I loved it, and it was when my first grandson was maybe 4 or 5, and he was playing. I said, "What are you doing, Riley?" And he says, "I'm pre-intending." And I said, "You're what?" And he says, "I'm pre-intending. I'm pre-intending." And I remember sitting there at that moment and going, that is a brilliant word, pre-intending. So we're pretending, but actually what we're doing is we're pre-intending. We're using our imagination to get out of the box and to open ourselves up to other possibilities exist here. I just don't know exactly what they are, but I can be open to them. And I got to tell you, because as I look at the law of attraction, I've really had to sit with this a lot. Because I hear things like, it's a mirror reflection, and whatever it is that you focus on, that will come to you, and yet that's not always been my experience for it to be that black and white. And so one of the things that came as a clarity for me was, I absolutely believe in the law of attraction and the vibration and the energy, but what I also recognized is that when I open my mind, when I start focusing on something that's outside of my box, that what I've done is I've expanded my vision, and so I begin to see things that were always there, but now I see them, and then I have the opportunity then to step into them, to start embracing them. And so it's not some magic that all of a sudden things just appear out of nowhere and magically. It's really and that's why I say we're co-creators, because it's a proactive thing on our part to, first of all, say I'm willing to be open, and then to keep our eyes open, and to start seeing the things that are showing up and embracing them and stepping into them. So when we look at using our imagination, of course, the scripture is whatsoever things you ask for in prayer, believe that you've received them and you will have them. It's that we are going to use our imagination. We're going to pre-intend. We're going to act as if. We're going to believe that they're already here. And so I'm going to share with you just some ideas on how we can get our imagination going. One of the ways that I've used for many, many years has been with treasure maps or vision boarding. That's simply taking a piece of paper, a poster board or whatever, and you start go through magazines. That's so fun to do. And just let things speak to you and cut them out as they do, and then place them on your vision board. And it's just going to be what speaks to you. And place them on there. You may place words on there with it, but you may, it may be a place that you'd like to go. You may place some things that have to do with relationships, a peaceful environment, whatever. Just put those on there. And then I use my treasure maps. I keep them where I can see them, so I can, get that energy going, Now the thing about, or if you write a vision or create something like this, one of the major components is you want to feel it. And this so goes with what we've been talking about for the last weeks, that it really is about the experience. It's about the qualities that we want to experience, of peace or freedom or joy or oneness or connection. We've talked about a lot of things in the last weeks. And so one of the most important components is you've got to feel it. So when you look at your treasure map or your vision board, that you feel the energy of it. You feel what it feels like. What does it feel like to be in a job that you love? What does that feel like? And feel the energy of that. What does it feel like to be in your perfect home and feel that energy? What does it feel like to write your book and know that it's done and accomplished? What does that feel? So you want to get to that feeling place. Now, I also write my visions out, and those are really, really helpful to me. I'm more of a word person, so I love to write my visions out, but I feel them. Another way to get your your imagination going is if you're desiring a really great, healthy relationship, start looking around at people that look like they have healthy relationships and talk to them. Ask them if you can talk to them, and find out. What is it? What is it that feels good about your relationship? What is it that you think has brought your relationship to the place that it is? And that starts to get you going in your imagination. If you want to continue your education and maybe take some online classes, get online and start looking at what's available. Maybe there's some financial help available, but start looking at it. And the idea is we want to start bringing that feeling of it to us, because that is what gets that energy, that vibration going. And then once we have that vibration going, guess what? Again, more stuff does start to appear and express in our lives. So one of the things too is, well, what could I do now to help my vision manifest? And maybe it's things like, well, maybe I need to clean up my own stuff. If I want to have a healthy relationship, maybe I need to myself work through some forgiveness. Or maybe I need to check in and see if I need to work with my anger issues or something like that. If you want to get healthier, you might start looking into, well, what are some great healthy ways to eat, and start doing some research on that. Or what are some exercises that I could be doing, even if you're not doing them yet. It's okay. But we want to start that process. What can I do to even start, kind of kickstart it? And then I love Michael Beckwith asked the question, what must I become in order to manifest my vision? What must I become? Now, I want to share with you, because this is a tad vulnerable for me, but in the meditation this morning, and it came up for me that I realized one of my limiting ideas is that if I ever had to get up here and speak just extemporaneously, that I wouldn't be able to do it. And so that I've got these walls in that. And so I started writing immediately, okay, what would that feel like? And I realized that one of the things that I must become in order to manifest this is I have to become a lot more confident in my abilities. I have to become a lot more confident in my knowingness that I've been doing this for years, and I have a lot of information in there, and it will come when I need it. So, I love talking about these things over again at different times, because we're going to be doing this stuff all our lives. Because as we continue to grow, we're going to find more things that we've gotten ourselves stuck in. And that's okay. That's normal. The thing is, we want to be awake enough and aware enough to say, oh, hey, I've got some walls up here. I want these walls to come down. Okay, what is it that's coming up, and how can I imagine this differently? Maybe a good question to ask is, what do I need to let go of in order to manifest my dreams? What do I need to let go of? Because here's the thing, when we're creating something new, we are going to let go of something else. And that's a good thing. If I'm a single person and I want to have a relationship, I'm going to let go of some of the freedom that I had as a single person. But that's a good thing, because I want to be in relationship. So it's just, well, what do I want to let go of? Maybe my attachment to having 24 hours a day to myself. So it's just, I love the questions that just help us to get to that place further. And then one of the very last things, and it's, again, one of the most important things, is to say thank you. To say thank you, thank you, thank you. This is already happening. I'm so grateful. This, again, brings it to that feeling place, but that appreciation makes things grow. It just does. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then we let it go. We don't try to figure out the how. We act on things as they come up. But God, the universe, this divine mind, will always create much greater than our minds will ever imagine that things could be created. So, our job this week is to open ourselves up to using our imagination by maybe talking to somebody else that you're close to and saying, hey, this is something I want to work on and I want to speak this out. Create a treasure map or a vision board or write a vision. Go someplace and feel the energy of a peaceful place if you're trying to create a peaceful place. But start really working on your imagination and open yourself up, because I promise you, for every single one of us here today, every single one of us, there are infinite possibilities that exist. Infinite possibilities. And they will absolutely jazz you. I can tell you that. They will jazz you. So let's close today by saying our affirmation together, which is this: I am a human being, creativity. And so it is, and so it shall be. Namaste. Namaste.